Hello YouTube. Unless you have been living under a rock, you have probably heard about these tariff policies enacted by Donald Trump. They have impacted a wide range of products from a variety of countries. One group of products that have probably been ignored by the majority of Americans and are not being discussed are gem and mineral fossil products. This is a niche industry, however, locally in Arizona, it is a big deal. My hometown, Tucson, actually hosts the world's largest gem, mineral / fossil show each February. According to the city, some 60,000 plus people from all over, both domestically and internationally, including 40 countries, come to both buy and sell their gem and mineral products at the gem show here in Tucson. However, let's consider the fact that the most recent show did just occur this past February, before the current administration began to implement its tariff policy and therefore potentially affect the prices and availability of any products in the show. Basically, I'm just saying that the 2025 Tucson Gem and Mineral Show hasn't truly reflected any price increases from a change in tariff policy. While Trump's 10% tariffs and even higher reciprocal tariffs affect many countries, I'm going to only cover those that are pertinent to the industry. I worked a year and a half in the gem, mineral, fossil industry, so I do have some knowledge of what countries are involved in this trade. Again, I'm going to cover the 10 countries that I remember seeing repeatedly during my time working with rocks. Now, I know that there are probably some people in the trade who will complain, "Hey, I didn't import any products from those countries," or "Why didn't you mention this country? I import a lot there." There are only so many countries I can cover in one video. However, I hope this video does spark discussion on this topic because as of May 2025, it is looking uncertain whether the 2026 Tucson Gem, Mineral, Fossil Show will be affected and whether it will be more expensive and potentially have less to offer in terms of product variety. If you have ever been to this show, you are aware that there is much more being sold than just fancy rocks. Many knickknacks, artwork, and souvenirs are also traded at this show. Vendors may also encounter more issues visiting Tucson itself if they are unable to procure the proper travel documentation and the right to be in the country legally. Now I am going to cover several general different regions globally, and I'm going to start off with Latin America, and specifically in North America, our North American neighbor immediately to the south, Mexico. Due to its large economic influence and by virtue of being its southern geographic neighbor, Mexico has largely escaped Trump's tariff barrage as of May 2025, receiving 25% on only specific sectors and still, for the most part, getting Trump to stick to the prior USMCA deal inked in the first Trump administration. Basically, any products that were covered under that deal are still somewhat exempt from Trump's tariff wrath. During Trump's Liberation Day tariff announcement, Mexico was indeed exempt from any new tariffs imposed by Trump. The other good news for gem enthusiasts is that gem and mineral products, end quote, in the agreement, any products that directly originate from the earth are also not subject to any tariffs as of now. Further south in Latin America, many gem enthusiasts are aware that a lot of minerals are produced from that continent. Most of the South American continent is actually pretty kind to American imports. Few countries on the continent impose any tariffs on American products, and although this doesn't necessarily exempt them from Trump's tariff ire, this means that Trump is basically imposing a 10% tariff on the continent. As a result, most gem and mineral products from Brazil, Peru, Uruguay will be slightly more expensive. I just thought I'd share this business card I received from a Peruvian vendor. Keep in mind that this is in February, at the start of the whole Trump campaign of trying to convince Canada to become the 51st state. It was almost as if he was predicting what would happen in the future and was trying to warn me. I just think it's funny that a Peruvian vendor with no knowledge of North American geopolitics made the card in that way. Anyway, shall we carry on? We all know about the China situation. Both countries imposed what amounted to an embargo with 145% tariffs on Chinese products and 125% tariffs on American products. Those numbers have since been reduced to 30% and 10% respectively. However, there is no telling whether the newest agreement both sides came together on will stick when Trump's self-imposed 90-day postponement ends. The Chinese are involved big time on both the buy and sell aspects of the gem and mineral trade. When I worked in the industry, every year a couple from Hong Kong came to the business and bought quite literally megatons of raw product in the rough, and they are only one of many. But there is no telling how the trade war will affect Chinese customers' willingness to buy. As much as this is bad news for Chinese buyers, it is also not good news for all the sellers of cheap Chinese trinkets. The tents at these shows are filled with these items, and they often go to accompany the gem and mineral products. There are many live show hosts that may have trouble explaining to their audiences why their previously somewhat inexpensive Chinese products have increased in price. Gem and minerals and cheap Chinese doodads aren't very high on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Although the US and India have better diplomatic relations, Trump still derides the country as a tariff king, and as a result has slapped the country with 26% tariffs. That means your little chunk of $10 amethyst will now cost approximately $12.50. There are several year-round vendors in Tucson who primarily import their products from India. It will be interesting and concerning to see how these tariffs affect these businesses' ability to compete within the industry. Now, it wouldn't be appropriate to mention the trade war's effect on the gem and mineral trade without mentioning the disproportionate tariff rate hikes on Africa, the continent that is one of the biggest suppliers to the gem, mineral, and fossil trade. Many African countries are impoverished and therefore levy high tariffs to protect what little industry they have. For example, if you're interested in selenite or fossils, Morocco is often a source of those two products, but those products will be subject to a 10% increase in import costs, and those are on the low end that many countries are facing. Liberation Day tariffs have also boosted tariffs on the Democratic Republic of Congo to 11%, which the DRC not only exports pretty rocks to us, but also those critical rare earth elements that are vital to US national security. Now, I don't really like to mention where I work or have worked, but this next piece of information will give y'all a hint. The gem mineral fossil location I worked at was primarily focused on buyers who were interested in what the country of Madagascar had to offer. And that company definitely wasn't the only Madagascar-based operation within the industry or even Tucson itself. Most Americans only know of Madagascar because of the animated movie series. However, what makes Madagascar unique is the fact that it is an island separated from the rest of the African continent. And this was a process that occurred millions of years ago, which means the country is home to many unique and diverse plant and animal species that have evolved separately and differently over those millions of years. And it's unique as only found in Madagascar and not anywhere else on the planet. And it is a similar story with the people that inhabit the island. They are obviously people that have a connection to the African continent. However, they also have a Pacific Islander Indian influence that both impacts their culture and appearance. And now, I bet you know what I am going to say next about the gems, minerals, and fossils found on the island. And you be correct. They are also valuable, unique, and sought after the world over. One fossil in particular that is popular in both Madagascar, Morocco, and several other places is the ammonite. I happened to see one of the members of upper management last weekend of March, a few days before the Liberation Day tariff assault. After exchanging pleasantries, I decided to ask what is the tariff rate that Madagascar is going to be subjected to, and he replied a whopping 47%. Indeed, looking on the official White House spreadsheet that lists each country receiving reciprocal tariffs in alphabetical order, I saw that Malagasy goods were going to be facing a 47% tariff, which to some of y'all doesn't sound high. However, it is the fourth highest tariff rate on the list. And now I think is the right time to bring up a concept I learned in my macroeconomics class in college. It is the concept of comparative and absolute advantage. The United States, with all of its technology and prosperity, simply can't compete with Madagascar or any other of the countries in the region when it comes to mining certain raw materials from the ground, whether they are these fancy gem and mineral fossils or rare earth elements. It's one thing to be losing a computer trade war. You can theoretically build more factories and train workers to make them. However, no country has the ability yet to transform useless dirt into rare earth elements or valuable gems and minerals. So it makes no sense to make operating costs and cost of goods sold in American businesses more expensive. The other unfortunate aspect of these African countries facing these tariffs is the fact that they are competing for attention with much larger economies. You constantly hear in the news about speculation surrounding a trade deal with China and how whatever trade policy is implemented with China will affect the day-to-day lives of Americans. And it's not just business interests. Many politicians at all levels of US government have expressed their opinion on China trade policy. However, the voices advocating for the best trade practices for African and other global South countries are just not going to be loud enough to compete with the noise of the Chinese trade lobby. Members of the administration's trade team have thrown out various numbers to describe the number of countries that they are currently in the process of drafting formal trade deals with. These range from 12 to 17 to 90 to 150. However, concerning this video, just know the countries at the top of the list are either America's largest trading partners or have some other close connection with the US. Many African countries are at the bottom of the list. Many Americans are simply ignorant of how big trade is with the African continent and what is being traded exactly with them. Like Americans have a basic concept of where cell phones and textiles are produced. However, many Americans are unaware of the gem mineral fossil trade and may not know about the potential implications global tariffs may have on this industry and countless American businesses that operate within the industry. I don't even work in the gem mineral fossil industry anymore. I just so happened to notice that this was a niche business topic not covered on the YouTube platform. It thus makes me wonder what other niche industries that aren't at the front of mind of Americans are also being adversely affected by this global trade war, and whether those businesses will be able to navigate the business environment, and if they can't, whether Americans can truly comprehend the damage that may occur if they cannot make it in the new business environment. Last thing I want to say is that price increases and lack of inventory aren't necessarily guaranteed outcomes for the next year's gym show, because the part of the uncertainty of the Trump tariff policy is we don't know what countries are going to face tariffs and how that will affect warehouses and intermediaries getting supplies from certain countries. For example, I work in construction, and right now we are working on a warehouse for a gem and mineral company that is currently stockpiling inventory for next year's gym show, trying to get ahead of the tariffs and to ensure that their shelves will be full of fancy rocks by next year's gym show. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, have a blessed day.